Good morning, everybody. My name is John O'Connell, and you're very, very welcome to this Green Education Ireland seminar in association with the Tidy Towns and supported by Green Coasts Ireland. Clean Coasts. Clean Coasts Ireland. Sorry about that. So, first of all, I'm very, very happy to see people again, as many of us are. It's a wonderful change from all of the things that have happened over the last 2 years where we haven't been able to come together. Many, many wonderful things have happened virtually and on Zoom and Teams and all sorts of things like this, but I don't think it beats people being able to come together in a room and interact, before and after as we go along. So that's a very welcome development, and particularly like to welcome our friends and students from Niamh College. And thank you for coming today. You're the future. You're the people that will see the benefit of some of these initiatives and the generations after that. So it's great that we're interacting at that particular level. First of all, Green Education Ireland is an initiative between the international education providers here in Bundoran. And we wanted the opportunity to tell people about the things that we're planning to do and how they will impact on our community and on our businesses, and how we would like others, whether they be community, business, education, to join in some of those initiatives and maybe share some of the things that you're doing as well over the period of next number of years. So it was a question of sort of starting off, telling you what we're doing, and at the end of the presentations, and I'll talk about that in a moment, I'll be inviting some of you to maybe to ask questions and make some suggestions based on what you've heard. One of the other things that we'll be asking people to do is to help us to find locations around the Bundoran locality where we can do things like tree planting and rewilding and various other initiatives like that. So we have a number of great speakers today. First of all, Green Education Ireland is an amalgamation and a cooperation between Irish Gap Year, which is represented by its director Ryan Allen here today, who's going to speak to you a little bit about the initiatives that Green Education Ireland has set out to do, and also to help you with various initiatives, including calculating carbon footprints. Then we have Finn Van der Aar. Where's Finn? There you are, Finn. Very good. From Saltwater Stories. Finn is a professional consultant and expert on sustainability, and we're happy that she could join us and share some tips and some practical advice with us. Rory Fallon from Food Cloud unfortunately informed us last night he's got COVID-19. So we thought it was best he stayed at home. And he's not feeling very well, so we didn't do the virtual thing. But at a future event, we hope, and certainly online, we'd like to share with you some of the initiatives that Food Cloud is doing. It's very, very good work, helping to reduce food waste and to redistribute it to needy people within the wider community. And finally, Gina Witherow from Donegal English Language School is going to talk about some Tidy Towns initiatives relating to sustainability. So first of all, maybe I'll ask Ryan to join us and tell us again a little bit about the Green Education Ireland initiatives and about the calculations. I hope you brought your calculators with you. He's got some good sums to do for you. So Ryan, thanks very much.
Thanks, John. Hello, guys. Yeah, thanks for joining today. We really appreciate it. As John said, I'm Ryan. I'm the director of Irish Gap Year. So myself and Killian set that company up. Killian O'Kelly set that company up in 2015, and we bring students mostly from the US to Bundoran to make art, to explore, to be outside, explore nature, volunteer in the town, and just travel around, really. I have a few slides. I'm actually not going to go too far into the carbon calculator today because I don't want to put people to sleep just as we're starting off, okay? But I'm definitely happy to talk to anyone in here who wants to get down into the actual calculating what is the carbon footprint of my household, my business, or organization, or anything like that. It's not as hard as you would think, and there's good resources for that. So what I thought I'd talk about instead was what are some simple, affordable, easy steps you can take in your own life, whether it's your business, your household, your organization, to reduce your carbon footprint. These are low cost, kind of easy things that you can do. And I'm sure quite a few of them have come onto your radar before. Let's see. All right. So first thing that's super, super easy is switch to clean energy. It's like it will take you less than an hour start to finish. It's just a matter of picking up the phone. I did a good bit of research into this for Irish Gap Year, and the best company I found was a company called Community Power. This is an Irish company that, how do I click on the link, John? Is there a way to play this little YouTube video? Bear with me here, guys. Let's see. Perfect. I'm just going to play this. So this is an Irish company that does micro-generated electricity. Oh, all right. Not working. Sorry about that. Basically what it is people who have solar, solar panels on their house, small wind turbines. It's all clean energy. None of it's dependent on fossil fuels. It's all generated in Ireland and sold back to the Irish grid, which means it's 100% clean, and it does not cost much more than your normal electricity provider. So you can see an average domestic annual bill is about €1,600. So you don't feel it in the pocket, but it's an instant way to really just turnkey reduce your carbon footprint by quite a bit. There are other clean energy providers in Ireland, but oftentimes it'll be a mix of clean energy and energy that's made with fossil fuels. These are the only guys that are all clean energy. And you can pick up the phone and talk to someone in Tipperary who will talk you through it. They're brilliant to deal with. So if you have a premises, if you have a business, or even your household, it's so easy. Just look them up, Community Power. They're not paying me to give them this plug, but I'm a big fan of them, right? So they're brilliant. Clean energy, greatly reduce your CO2 footprint. Additional cost is nominal, okay? So that's one thing we can do. Sorry, I'm a bit remedial here with the slides. I need technical support. Maybe just do it on the laptop. Oh yeah, here we go. Oh, thank you, Shane. All right, perfect. So the next thing is composting. Super easy to do, really good activity. It reduces the need for chemical fertilizers, which are high in nitrates, and they leach into the groundwater, and they're not good for the fish, and they're not good for the ground. It's the best thing you can do for your soil. If you don't have a garden or you don't want to deal with the kind of messiness that comes with it, Donegal Waste collect the brown bin and take it away and compost for you. So, and that's part of the standard collection. So if you ring them up, they'll drop you a brown bin. All your food scraps go in, easy. When food decomposes, it releases methane, and that's a climate killer, they call it. It's a superheater of the ozone. So the less of that we've got going out into the atmosphere, and the more of it we can lock down into the ground, the better. And this is something that schools can do. This is something that you can do in your home. Like I said, if you have a garden, it's really, really good for that. It doesn't cost anything. Rewilding a portion of your garden. So this is something that Tidy Towns, I'm sure Gina's going to touch on when she talks, and I'm sure a lot of people noticed this summer walking all the nice wildflowers, and hopefully noticed that it attracted things like bees and butterflies. And those are creatures that really need help. Those are pollinators, and they're really important, and they definitely need help. Lawns are no good to them. Even though a lawn looks nice and feels good to walk on, it's really no help to the pollinators or to wildlife. So rewilding, even if it's just a portion of your garden, if you want to do a raised bed or leave a verge around the sides, that really creates an ecosystem that locks in CO2. Again, cutting the grass, not nitrogen. Help me here, Finn. The gas that is, I'm getting my gases confused. Methane, sorry. Yeah, so the cut grass releases the methane, and it heats the ozone. So basically the less of that you have, the better. And it looks really good. So it's good for the environment. It saves you a bit of work and having to cut your whole garden. And it's good for the pollinators. So rewild the portion. Sponsor a beach cleanup with Clean Coast. This is a great one for a business or a school group. And I know a lot of us have worked with Clean Coast in the past. They're great to work with. They'll bring you all of the gear, the bags, the pickers, the gloves. And it's a great way to get a bit of publicity for your business, to remove rubbish from the beach, and to raise awareness. That's a big part of it, because especially for young people, when you see what comes and washes up on the beaches, something clicks, it becomes real. Then you're kind of grappling with it. Some of this rubbish is local, some of it's coming from way out in the Gulf Stream, and it depends on what beach you go to, what kind of rubbish you get. But Clean Coast is a really good one for awareness and for kind of waving the flag. So consider planting trees to inset your carbon. When you're talking about carbon footprint, there's two big things you can do. You can reduce your usage, but for stuff that you can't reduce, you can either offset it or you can inset it. And inset it means lock it away into something like timber or like compost, something where it gets trapped long term. And that's the golden ticket. That's what you really want to be doing. A great way to inset is with trees. So here's a couple of little bits of math here. So one native Irish tree captures about 0.167 kilograms of CO2 a year. So that's kind of hard to figure out. What does that look like? How much is that? A transatlantic return flight from, say, New York to Dublin is going to produce 1.25 tons of CO2 each time for each passenger. Okay? So it takes 6 trees 1 year to remove 1 ton of CO2. So 6 trees will take about a year and a half to offset 1 transatlantic flight. Okay? Ireland, unfortunately, is not great when it comes to carbon footprint per person. And the way they calculate that, it's spread across the whole population. So things like agriculture make it seem higher for people who are maybe not involved in agriculture. So it is spread across the population. So the average Irish person makes 8.8 tons of CO2 per year. And the government has all these initiatives to bring that down and all the things that are coming from the top down for us. But trees are just a great way to, first of all, they can add value to your property. They lock in the CO2. They create an ecosystem. And there's companies and organizations like Green Ed Ireland who are really keen to get out there and plant trees in kind of wasteland and scrubland. So we are actively looking for places to do that. So without going too far into the maths, it's about 78 trees a year per person in Ireland to inset, to take that CO2 that we make, each of us, and lock it away long term. The great thing about trees is, though, they keep taking it out every year for a long time. So that's what's really wonderful about trees. And even timber that's sustainably managed, like if you burn timber at home, if it's coming from a sustainably managed source, which most of it is these days, they're planting as they harvest trees. So that's actually a good thing compared to something like, say, coal. So yeah, trees are great. They're great insetters. So this is just a little bit on Irish Gap Year's kind of journey towards going carbon negative, which we are doing this year, early 2022, late 2021. It's been a big project. Basically, this is just a rundown of our own carbon footprint for the year. So we do bring a lot of people to the area from abroad. So a lot of flights equals a lot of carbon. I won't go too far into it, but our total flights for the autumn was 78.5 tons. So that's all of our students getting here and back, getting into and out of Ireland. Then we worked out our minibuses, our home heating oil, our secondary items like office, paper, all that kind of stuff. And we multiplied it by 1.15. So we said, look, the math is a little bit hard. Let's give it an overspend. And we came out with a total figure of 105.3 tons for the year, which is a lot for a small business. It's because we're doing travel. So the amount of trees we had to plant for that was 631. So we just said, look, we'll round it up to 700. And we're planting those trees down in Sligo on Knocknarea Farm, which is a regenerative farm that's kind of between Sligo and Strandhill. And those trees will take out 116.9 tons of carbon a year. And you can work all this out pretty easy with the carbon calculator and a little bit of online research. So that those will keep going for their whole lifespan, and that will mitigate our carbon for the year. So that's just an overview of, there's the kind of where we workshopped it out with our students. So, it's actually a really good activity for schools or community groups to do with young people, where you can give them these calculators and look at these types of things and then go plant the trees, because that's the part that makes it real, where it's hands-on. So that's it for my slides. Like I said, I didn't want to go too far into the carbon calculator, but anybody that's interested in any of that or working it out, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards or as part of the Q&A. So I'll pass it over to Finn now. Okay, and thank you guys.
Hi guys.
Sorry, just while we're fixing our technical difficulties. Green Education Ireland, just so you know, the people involved, over the period of the last year when there was certain downtime as a result of no international students being able to travel, one of the advantages, I suppose, is people had more time to talk and reflect on what they were doing. And as Ryan has indicated, you know, we're very conscious, as we all should be, about sustainable practices and about the various impact of bringing students and other people to Ireland by air travel and the things that we do while we're here. So we came together, Institute of Study Abroad Ireland and Irish Gap Year and Donegal English Language School and ID Languages. So that's Arantxa Sanchez. Many of you might know her. She has the ID Languages down here in the East End. Unfortunately, she's away in Spain, I think, today. And she and all of us together decided, like, this is one of the initiatives that we could start having a look at and seeing how we could offset that carbon footprint. But we didn't want to go too far from home. There are lots of initiatives that one can take part in where you can pay to have forests and trees and things planted in places like Guatemala or in Africa and so on. And that's wonderful. They're great projects. But we wanted the students who come here to be involved in the planting process, and we wanted the local community to be able to see what was happening and to be involved in other ways as well, and to make a positive contribution to that. So I think it's wonderful that we have an interim place like up in the forest at Strand Hill, but we certainly will be asking you to help us to find places within the locality to try and get things done. Now, Finn, sorry.
Perfect. No, that's great, thank you. Hi everyone, delighted to be here to chat with you today. So quite a few familiar faces, but for those who don't know me, I'm Finn Van der Aar. I'm a marine scientist, a speaker, a writer, and I kind of work all around kind of climate change and trying to demystify sustainability as well and living a bit more sustainably. So I guess to kind of go with what we're talking about today and the kind of groups and stuff that you guys might be involved with, I'm going to chat first a little bit about maybe schools and then also community groups. And then the things that I kind of have here are a lot related to business, but all of them again can kind of be things that you could actually use at home, that you could take into consideration as well. Or again, if you have a community group or something like that, they'd also work in that way too. So I guess the first one I'd want to say for schools is there are so many amazing resources out there already. So you don't have to invent the wheel. There's loads of fantastic different groups, NGOs and organizations that you can get in touch with that can create different things with your school. So obviously a great one that I've worked with before is the Irish Whale and Dolphin Group. I do a lot of work with them, and they will do everything from have a speaker and come into your school and talk to you about the marine mammals around Ireland and kind of marine conservation in Ireland, I think typically for free as well, which is fantastic. And then they have a lot of online resources as well. Anyone who has smaller kids as well, for primary schools, they create workbooks and things like that. And then the National Aquarium in Galway does the same again. So they do things for school groups, but they also create loads of great resources for kids as well. And then obviously we talked a little bit about clean coasts, and Ryan had a great point about that too. It is such a fantastic thing to do with either a community group or a school group to really get people involved. And it's as you're doing that cleanup and doing that pickup that kind of, like you said, a light bulb goes off. And I know for myself, one time when I was working at sea and I realized, we were out 2 days sailing away from Ireland, 2,000 meters deep, looking at a camera, and we were seeing Coke cans and we were seeing water bottles in what it should be a pristine environment. And then we were also realizing that in the conference room, while we were looking at the screen, we were also drinking Coke cans. So it kind of makes you reflect on what you're consuming yourself and how that's going out into the environment. There's also, I think it's greenschools.org, I can't remember the name exactly, but there's lots of different kind of things where they can work directly with the school as well to kind of create green and environmental initiatives within the actual classroom. For community groups, obviously it's a great example here in Bundoran. You've got the community centre. A lot of these things will work, but there's also other things you can do as well. Like when I was working as part of the Climate Ambassador Programme, which is from Montasca, which I would totally recommend for anyone to get involved with, youngest member, I think, in my cohort was maybe doing their junior cert, and the oldest had just retired. So great spectrum of people. And one lady was actually talking specifically about what she had done with her community centre to make it more sustainable. They had done things like switch to renewables, but one of the biggest things they found that was great for events is they kind of thought like, okay, what's the max capacity of our events? Do we have 100 people? Do we have 80 people? Okay, how can we serve those people coming in a more sustainable way? So where they had always been maybe doing kind of disposable decorations and things for events, they thought, okay, well, we can buy better and we can buy once, and we can use things like the local charity shops to get it. It doesn't have to be expensive. And then they also did a little fundraiser to buy a washing machine, which sounds so simple, but realizing that actually something like a washing machine is more efficient in terms of water usage and energy than standing and washing the dishes, which I think we're probably all happy enough to hear, was great. You know, only cost a couple of €100, but it really reduced kind of the footprint of their overall usage of the building. They went around again to all their local charity shops, picking up plates and cutleries and cups so that they could completely eliminate all kind of single-use plastics, things like that. You could obviously go a step further if you liked, get fancy with things like fabric napkins and just get them cleaned in your kind of local dry cleaner if someone's willing to bring them home. So there's a lot of kind of really, like even kind of like what we're talking about, really simple things that you can do that will have, you know, a cumulative effect to have a bigger footprint. So talking as a business owner, I've lived and died by small business. I know what it's like to have a premises and to try and make it sustainable and try to do that affordably as well. So everything here, I have tried it and I can promise it works. And again, are things that you can also translate into being at home. So I don't have a lot of time to go through them all, so I'm kind of going to skim it. But again, if you want to ask questions in the Q&A later, or I've left you know, my website and my Instagram details there if anyone wants to get in touch, if they prefer to chat about it later, please feel free to do so. So I'm going to do a little bit of a run through. I think Ryan's already touched on a few of them, so I can kind of go through them quickly. But the first one is transport, and I guess I have to do that with a little caveat at the moment because obviously we're still kind of facing the COVID pandemic to a certain degree. So you have to kind of go with a balance between what is a good sustainable choice for you, but also what you feel comfortable and safe doing. So just bear that in mind as I say it. So obviously the first one, it's hard to recommend in Northwest Ireland in the kind of winter, but cycling is a really easy one. As you can tell by my unusual second name, my husband is Dutch, so I think they are pretty much born with a bicycle. But that is a great one. So if for you cycling to work or cycling to school is safe and possible, it's a great option. I think I bought my bike secondhand for £100. I only learned to cycle when I was 22, so I'm very proud. And yeah, like again, if you are a business owner, this can be a nice initiative. When I was a teenager, I worked in a cafe where if you cycled to work, or if you lived shared, or if you took public transport, you kind of got certain incentives and stuff while you were at work, which was really nice. Again, obviously public transport's a great one. Easier to say that in a city than it is rurally. If it's useful for you, obviously that's a great option. And then car sharing, again, when you feel it's safe, things like that can be great. I've made the switch recently to go electric, which obviously can feel like a big step rurally and can be an expense as well. But I've definitely found that it's feasible once you have a charger at home. And again, if anyone wants to ask about that, feel free. I've done all the trial and error. And then I won't go into power too much because I think Ryan covered that really well. But again, I think there's always this fear that switching to a renewable is going to be more expensive. And when I did have a business premises, I think we were with electricity, and I found that it was roughly on par with what the bills would have been if I had just gone with a regular provider. I think they were only doing 70% renewable at the time and 100% in Northern Ireland, but that was just kind of what was available to me then. But the other thing that was great is it's something that your business can sing about. So when we set up with them, we actually ended up doing a campaign of ads with them. So hard to put a value figure on what that provided for us, which was great. Another thing as well, if anyone does have food premises or anything like that, what can be next time you are doing any kind of overhaul from the kitchen is moving away from gas and going electric is a great way to be more sustainable too. And it brings down the insurance cost, which is really nice. And then solar and wind. So again, the company you were talking about was brilliant, the way they do that and then give back to the grid. But you'd also be surprised how affordable it is to do that on a small scale for yourself. So my dad has a business in Sligo. It's a lodge with about 35 bed capacity, and he's had the same solar panel since 2000, so the last 20 years, and I think it probably cost a couple of thousand at the time, but that has been heating enough water for 35 to 100 people for 20 years. So no cost from the grid, which was brilliant. And then we also ran a workshop to build a small wind turbine, noisy heaters, which again didn't cost that much money, and that has been supplementing the electricity of the building. So that's brilliant. So that's kind of the nice steps you can take. And even if someone is just renting a home at the moment, switching to renewables is one of the easiest ways to reduce your footprint at home. So yeah, totally recommend that. But I guess decor sounds fancy, but basically whether this is at home or if you're outfitting a business or if you are putting something in your community group or something in the community centre, this again can kind of be a big cost, but also a big place that you can kind of reduce your footprint. So one of the things that I really wish I had heard of before I spent probably thousands of euros to paint my building was there's a place, I wonder if anyone's ever heard of it, called the Rediscovery Center. It's in Ballyshannon. No, sorry, not in Ballyshannon, it's in Ballymun in Dublin. So it's a little bit of a drive, but I promise it's worth it. And what they do is they get all of the paint from all of the recycling centres around Ireland, and they can inject that with any Dulux colour. So as opposed to buying brand new paint and then maybe having bits left over and getting wasted, I think it cost about €1 a litre, something like that. Unbelievably cheap. So that was brilliant. And then I think a lot of us do this anyway, but when it comes to kind of big ticket items like kitchen appliances, stuff like that, whether you're a business and you're buying a commercial, heavy duty version, or even just buying something for your house, things like Facebook Marketplace, things like Donegal, you can buy them at a fraction of the cost. And you, especially on things like, fridges that would have like kind of a higher carbon footprint, you can just reduce that drastically by buying it secondhand. And obviously it's great for you as well because it's a fraction of the price. And then our last kind of favourite thing to do was, once we had saved that bit of money with buying secondhand, buying refurbished, was then you have that little bit to support local. And I think that's really important. So local carpenters, local makers, making beautiful things. We obviously even here have the shop, and around town as well, a couple of different places that sell beautiful handmade pieces for your home, which I think can be really nice to support. I don't want to keep you guys for too long. So when I was talking about consumables, I just mean things like what I gave with that example of the community centre. So kind of eliminating single-use plastics, things like that. But another great thing to do can be to try to just eliminate single-use completely. So obviously compostable is a great interim, but it's only good if you actually have a compost bin. And if it actually goes into the regular bin, it's just as bad as if it was plastic. So taking that time to maybe create initiatives like, again, for businesses, there's fantastic things like the Conscious Cup campaign or the Refill campaign. They're all completely free to sign up to. They also provide good publicity for your business, and it just kind of helps you make that transition to having less. When we had the premises, we completely eliminated things like cling film, stuff like that, which again was an additional cost for us, but just a huge kind of plastic output that was really unnecessary. We found other ways to kind of preserve and look after food. We also worked with our local suppliers to eliminate packaging coming into us. So again, like what Ryan said about like how you can just reduce, one of the greatest ways before you even think about offsetting is just to reduce your footprint. One of the easiest things to think about when it comes to stuff like recycling is not to have to do it in the first place, which is really nice to get that time back. I don't know about you, but I hate washing all those cartons. So, and it seems like a waste of water. So we worked with our different suppliers to have our veg, and anything that didn't have to come in a package, cut that off at the source. We used to have to ring the bin company to tell them not to come to get the bins because they kept charging us for empty bins that they were emptying. So, and then on the bin one again, like Ryan said, composting is such an amazing way to reduce your footprint. And if it's not feasible for you to compost at home or in your business, people often don't realise that there are commercial sized compost bins as well. So that's what we had on our premises. Again, so we're obviously chatting a little bit about the offsetting. I did a business trip to London once, and we were like, do you know what? It'd be really interesting to calculate the carbon of the journey. So it calculated, an imaginary journey where I flew and I bought a new outfit for the weekend, and I ate all meat-based meals, and I took taxis. And then I did the real version, which was I got a sail and rail ticket. Those still exist. You may have never heard of these before, but they're fantastic. So I still took a similar amount of time, which is funny. So I got the train from Sligo to Dublin, got the boat to the UK, and then got the train to London. Very nice way to travel if you still have work to do. And then ate all plant-based meals, used all public transport, or used electric taxis when I was there. And I think it's really great to have a look at something like a carbon calculator, because you will be really surprised the things that actually make the difference, or the things that are the big ticket items. So when I looked at the breakdown of all the different things that I did, the thing that most drastically reduced my footprint had nothing to do with the plane. It was not eating meat. And that was just an absolute shock to me, and also a little bit sad when it came to cheese. But I think that's really interesting, because there is nuance in there as well. So you can say, okay, well, it is more sustainable to travel by boat, but my boat was nearly empty. Whereas if I had traveled on a packed flight and you calculated that jet fuel per person, maybe the flight would have been better. So you kind of have to leave room for that nuance when you are thinking about it. And I think also not beat yourself up about it too, because we are just trying our best. And then social engagement. So again, working with groups like Clean Coast, working with things like the Refill campaign if you are a business. It can be really nice when you are trying to make sustainable changes. It's often a little bit overwhelming. So I would say, like, start in one area, move slowly through it as you're getting a handle on it. Same for if you're doing it at home. And then remember that those kinds of organizations are there to help you. And then the last thing is, collaboration. So if you're trying out these things, try it out with a friend. Try it out with another business. When I was opening up, I couldn't afford all the kind of more expensive compostable items that I wanted to get. So I went in with another cafe. We bought a big bulk order together so that it could be as cheap as buying plastic for us. And that really will make a difference. So guys, thank you so much for the run through. And yeah, if you have any questions after. Good.
Spent a lot of time this morning testing all of this, and it all worked perfectly. Exact sequence and so on. So maybe we're out of practice from having people here in person, and that's part of the problem. But I'd like to acknowledge just some of the work that Shane Smith has done, our tourism officer, and Discover Bundoran. He's recording this today so that we can put it out online for people who weren't able to attend. But many of you within your homes, within your community groups, within your businesses, within your schools are probably and certainly are doing lots of work in the field of being green and sustainable. But one of the difficulties, or one of the challenges that we have as a community is gathering that information, so to have a kind of a record of knowing where we are and where we need to go to. One of the objectives that we would like to see from a tourism perspective, from a business perspective, and from a community perspective, is to be able to tell people about what we're doing in Bundoran, to make it somewhere that people would be happy to come to, because they would know that we have ambition, we have respect, and we want to try and move towards this more type of sustainable destination. And some of the things that Finn and Ryan have spoken about, in terms of how they get here, whether they use public transport or whether they use cars or whatever and all the rest of it, there's always a balance to be there. But I think something that will help them when they get here, because we still want to continue people to attract people to come, whether they're from overseas or from around different parts of Ireland, is that if they feel that there are sustainable practices and sustainable things that they can do while they're here themselves, and that the places that they're staying in, or the restaurants that they're eating in, or the activities that they take part in, that again, that they're using sustainable practices, and they'll help to buy in, and they'll go away saying, wow, in Bundoran or in the area around Bundoran, these are the things that they're doing there. And in terms of an attraction and having people, decide coming here as opposed to go somewhere else, it is a point of difference. But I would like, we would like collectively, I think, that in the school, for example, or in your community group, or in various organisations that you might be involved in, if you could let us know sort of some of the things that we're doing. Now, last year we sent out kind of a questionnaire from Discover Bundoran asking people to sort of give an idea of where they're at on that journey. Some places hadn't started, some people were thinking about it, some people had gone a long way. But it would be very useful over the course of the next number of months that if you have a document, whether it's a sustainability charter that you have, or whether it's just even a link to your website, if you've documented things that you're doing, that you could share it with us, and maybe, if it's okay, Shane, to send it in to the tourism officer to help us to get a bank of information that we could put together on the Bundoran website to say, you know, all of these places and all of these people and all of these groups are doing these things together, and that we can present that to the wider world, to the people that maybe think about coming to stay here or to work here or to live here, that Bundoran is a place that has wishes and ambitions to keep on that journey, and at some stage in the future, I don't think it ever stops. I think it's always it's a lifelong, it's for future generations journey, but that they can you know, get a positive impression of us, and that it'll help us to collectively to stick with it and to keep going forward. And I was reminded the other day, I was lucky enough, I was doing some work in Denmark, and I visited a number of schools and colleges there, and everywhere that I went within their buildings, sustainability was at the centre of it, even on the floor markings that they had. So we're so used over the past couple of years to seeing, you know, COVID stand here, but their floor markings were all about sustainable practices, and it was on the walls, and everywhere that you went, reminders of various steps that you can take. So they take it very seriously in Denmark, and sustainability seems to be at the core of all of their curriculum and activities and everything that they do. So we can learn a lot from some of our European partners, and we hope in the near future to invite some of the people who are, especially in education, from some of our European Union partners to come here to Bundoran and share some of their stories with us at a similar type event, bigger hopefully with more people there, and to spend a few days here looking at how we can compare one thing and another. So I'm still filling time, but hopefully, and sorry, Michael, you want to say something? Councillor Michael McMahon, Donegal County Council. Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. I'm glad you came up front about being late, so we didn't have to pull you up publicly about it afterwards. That was good. So after Gina has spoken about the initiatives that she has planned, I'll ask you just to spend, without keeping you too long, those of you who have time, just a few minutes to maybe give us some feedback on some of the things that you've heard. Maybe tell us if you have some other initiatives that you think that you might need some help with, or that the County Council could help with. And as I said, we'll be asking you to give us some ideas, not necessarily today. Today would be great, but to send them in to us one way or the other as to maybe locations that you might have some control over or could suggest. And we'll be asking the Council to do that as well, where, you know, tree planting or rewilding or other types of initiatives to help that carbon offset would be possible within the town, that students or other people could have access to, and that they could be involved in the projects, and that we could tell people about them, tell them about our visitors, tell our visitors about them, and tell, you know, people in other towns about them. How are we doing there?
Yeah, for some reason mine is just not downloading. I think I'll just have to maybe just show it to people rather than having it up on the screen. Or maybe let's try this.
we're trying to get the IT side of things figured out here. Is there any questions that anybody has, or anything anybody wants to bring up? We can start the Q&A and just talk through anything that myself, John, or Finn has mentioned so far. Any questions from any of our young people? Any questions from you guys? No? Anyone?
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
For your tree planting initiative,
Yeah.
so I'm in Ballyshannon, in the school in Closh, Hill and Ballyshannon.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering, we have lovely green areas, so is that available for schools as well?
Absolutely. Anywhere where there's space to plant trees. I mean, the closer to Bundoran, Ballyshannon area, the better. Definitely, and it's a great way to, like I said, to take that carbon and inset it and lock it in, and ultimately you end up with a beautiful forest or
And is it generally on, it's not for private?
It's not for harvest. It's not for anything. That's the thing, is it has to be planted. These are native Irish trees. They're not Sitka spruce, and they're planted, and that's it. It's an ecosystem that you're growing basically. And we buy the trees and plant them, and the students can plant them. And great thing about doing it in a school setting, like that's kind of the way we do it with our students, is you can workshop it out with the students, and you can say, all right, well, let's take an example of like a carbon footprint, and let's go plant those trees, and then they can see, all right, this is what it feels like to dig 8 holes in the ground and plant 8 trees, and this is the, yeah, and if it's something you want to chat to any of us about, we'd be happy to talk to you and organize something. Only thing with tree planting that is worth noting though is, I'm sure a lot of us know that there is a season, they have to be dormant, so it's kind of a autumn, winter, early spring activity. But basically November to March you can plant trees, and yeah, absolutely. Any other questions, guys? It can seem very daunting, but really like lots of little changes. Even if you took one thing away from this and said, you know what, I'm going to switch energy providers, or I'll start putting out the brown bin for the compost, or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So the compost, there, I'm on the Green Street Committee in school, and I wanted to compost and buy a compost facility for outside, but there was resistance because they thought it would attract unwelcome visitors to school grounds. So
Four-legged ones.
Four-legged ones.
Yeah.
So
But they seal on top. There's like a little lock
is
type
that
of
a
thing.
myth? They do not attract. If you keep local food in it, like cooked food,
Mm.
stick to the scrapings and carrots, and okay, no cooked food at all. Now, I've had them over the years, and my husband like that would always say that, but I don't have them near ditches or things like that, that they could scurry away into. I haven't found any in Bundoran anyway for 2 years. Yeah.
You can also get the ones that, like, if you don't want to construct it out of wood, you can also get kind of more sealed containers as well.
Well, that's what I think we would go for, a commercial.
And then the random one is that my dad always says is don't put in eggshells. I'm not sure why, but that was along with cooked food, no eggshells.
Yeah, I've used eggshells. Yeah, very healthy. Yeah, crushed them. So no cooked food. No.
Mm.
If you're using it for school lunches, I don't know how suitable it would be to actually compost yourself outside if there's going to be, economic damage or anything. That's the thing. You don't have to make like fruit and vegetables and peelings and stuff like that.
Follow the rules for your own use.
We put paper and like cardboard in ours, as long as there's not plastic on, like labels or stuff. So, yeah.
And you just,
Yeah.
this is a very,
No.
minor question, but envelopes and balls with the gum, can you recycle those?
It depends on the brand. So if they say it, then it's okay. And then good rule of thumb for if you're wondering whether paper should go in, if you scrunch it up and it stays scrunched up, it is fine to put in. If it unfolds, it probably has a plastic coating. So don't put it.
Just to consider with that,
The brown bin and it goes to a communal compost. Can you get that compost back here?
get that back, but if it's very small,
It's the brown thin stuff, yeah.
yeah, it rots away then, just in case. But you can get it, if you have a lot of stuff there. I think there's a guy in town here who will come and pulp it for you and leave it there, like, you know.
Okay, thanks.
But it's something that we will be looking at as well.
Yeah.
For that, and it's a good question, you know. And just to say that we have started, we were on the tree planting last week. We were out there with the Taylor Towns, and we earmarked at least 20 spaces in the park, in the Super Wild Cat Park for planting. You know, we're just waiting on the report back to see what kind of trees that go into it, you know, because unfortunately in Bundoran there's some trees that will grow and there's some trees will not grow because of the atmosphere and the sea and the salt. But we're already ready to go, and hopefully that will be continued throughout the
Thank you.
Steve.
You need the young ones to get things done. Come on, thank you.
Well done, Gina.
Oh, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. Can I just say? Thanks a million.
David Whelan. Well done, David.
David. So guys, you know, a lot of the time we're bombarded with information about climate change and climate action and what we can do, and in some senses we've kind of become immune to it. But I mean, if you take it on a Donegal level, I mean, this is from Donegal County Council. Within 8 years, there's going to be parts. Oh, sorry, yes. Even though this is not. Within 8 years, there are going to be parts of Donegal that are going to be submerged underwater. And I suppose when you look at it on a local level, we have to take things like this seriously. So just, I would know some people in the room, but for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Gina Witherow. I'm the director of Donegal English Language School. And what we do is we help people improve their English. We bring them to a stunning location here in the Wild Atlantic Way. We provide experiential English language packages to adults and juniors from over 26 different countries. And we take the hassle out of the holiday. So from the moment they arrive at the airport to the moment they leave, we organise everything for them. And this is just a little bit about our sustainability journey. And then what I'll do is I'll tell you about what we do with Tidy Towns and Green Ed Ireland as well. So before COVID, we had 1,200 students come a year, which is great. We were super busy. But the thing about that was that in the back of my mind, I'm going, well, they're flying in from 26 different countries. And what impact does that have? So yes, when they're here, we do things. But like this was always something in the back of my mind. So with COVID, obviously, we were closed. So we had a bit of time to think about it and reflect. And what I wanted to look at was simple, affordable, achievable and sustainable ways that we could improve the sustainability of the business. So one of the first things we did is we became a member of Green School Standards, and that helped us look at what we were doing and what we could do a little bit better. And these are just some of the things that we've done. So if we look at paper, like you can imagine in an English language classroom, there's a lot of paper going around. We moved everything online, and I worked it out from the 20th of September to this week. In the classroom alone, we've saved 5,000 pieces of paper. So that's a lot when you think about it. And you can imagine that then what we've done in the office and everything else. We looked at our products. Are we buying local? If we're not buying local, are we buying Irish? You know, our cleaning products, are they eco-friendly? So, you know, as I say, we're still on the path, but it's just some of the things we've started. In our curriculum, we teach sustainability when and where possible. So like with the adults, we have a theme. We brought in a sustainability expert from Donegal County Council. We bring them to the local community gardens. We do different projects with the teenagers, but it's not just, whoa, the world's going to thing. We try to make it as fun and authentic and engaging as possible. This is something that we were always doing, but with the activities, we look at our natural environment. So we encourage surfing, horse riding, kayaking. We do things like rock pool bingo. We take them out and we look at our natural environment and we try to make things as fun and engaging. And again, you know, just reminding people to leave no trace, have no impact. And that's something that all of us education providers, we've been doing for a very long time. And then we look at the messaging when we were going on this journey, and I was thinking, well, it's all right me thinking like this, but we need everybody to come on board with us. So we looked at our vision statement, our mission statement, everything that we do, the manuals that go out to our staff. welcome packs to our team. So I'm trying to incorporate that message as much as possible into everything that we do. Energy, similar to the guys, what they were saying. Now, I didn't go with the crowd that Ryan's going with, but when you do phone up your company, you have to say to them, is it green energy? They might be a renewable energy, but a lot of the time it's like 70% and it's actually brown energy, so you have to ask that question. We have some big old buildings that we're using, so insulation, boilers, cavity walls, those types of things, like some of that we're still doing. And as I say, some of this is a work in progress. The bins we're still working on the, we do the brown bins with Donegal waste, but you know, we have to get better at the systems in the school, so we will work on that. And little things of like the use of plastic. You know, we say to our students, before you come over, bring a reusable bottle. And everywhere, so when you come to class, when you come to school, so we encourage them not to use single-use plastics there. So it's like, you know, it's little things, but if those 1,200 people were drinking 5 bottles of water a day, it has a lasting impact. So what are those small things that we can do to help have a long-term impact? And then planting, you know, we love planting, and we put in pollinator plants around, and then we've got plants in the classrooms which purify the air for the students, and they're also just therapeutic. The students name them, you know, and they have to water them and stuff like that. And we planted trees down at the school as well. But just for 2022, this is some of our goals. So designate rewilding areas. So in our green spaces, like as business owners at the moment, the cost of everything is going up, and like one of those things is going to be the people who cut your grass. If you can designate some of those areas to rewilding, it's not only helping the local ecosystem, but it's also going to help your pocket as well. We're looking about the sustainability within the curriculum, we're enhancing that. And our goal for this year, like, we're not going to go carbon negative like Ryan, but we want to start, you know, reducing. So our goal is to plant 500 trees for this year. Now, if you look around Bundoran, you don't see many trees. And a lot of the reason why that is because of our coastal location. But, like, off the main street, the retail park, there's lots of opportunities to plant trees. Yes, it is tougher along the coastal area. So what we've done in conjunction with, just to let you know about this, Ireland has the lowest forests in the whole of Europe. And like 11% of Ireland is covered in forests. I mean, that's really, really small in comparison. So it's great that we've got all these fabulous beaches. But like, if I want to go to a proper forest, I have to go up to Benbulben. Do you know what I mean? It's too far, and we need to have it closer, and ideally we need to have it within walking distance in Bundoran. So one of the things we're doing with Tidy Towns, kindly funded by Pobble and Green Education Ireland, is we're running a tree planting workshop on the 26th of February. So why are we doing it? We're looking for tree planting ambassadors. You know, like Ryan was saying, you know, it's one of the best ways to offset your carbon. So we want people to come along, to learn how to plant trees, to look about where we can plant them, to get the conversation starting and going, you know what, that's a great space. They're going to be Irish, they're going to be native trees. Then we're going to plant around the retail park. So we have approval thanks to Michael from Donegal County Council, and we're going to be planting there. But we also have some extra trees then that we're looking for people to take on in their estates, possibly in their gardens, etc. It's going to be at Bundoran Community Gardens, and Klaus from the Community Gardens, and previously from the Organic Center, he's going to be running the workshop. I'm actually on holidays even when I'm organising it, because we didn't realise there's such an such a time frame that you have to have them in the ground. So, you know, we have to do it sooner rather than later, and we just recently got the funding for it. So it's at 11 o'clock, and if you want to sign up, that's where you sign up and Discover Bundoran. And there is only 25 spaces on it, you know. But if we get the interest, and, you know, and that this goes well, we're planning to do more of this. And I suppose the one thing is we'd love people to start that discussion about land, because long-term goal of Green Education Ireland is to find a space where we can plant the trees. We bring our students to plant the trees and the local community as well. But essentially we want to leave a legacy for the people of Bundoran and the surrounding areas. We want to leave a forest. So, you know, if you want to start that conversation with us, we're more than interested to hear it. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
So, thank you very much for your attention. I will just maybe over the next minute or two, if anyone has had any further questions that they'd like to ask. It's great that you could come. As I said, I'd like, and we'd all like, if you would go away from here today and have this conversation with lots and lots of people, each of you, to keep it going, to say, look, this is happening. We don't have all the answers. We're only trying to stimulate a conversation, say these are the things that we're doing, and try and encourage as many of you to join in and give more ideas and to take on other initiatives. I'd say to the schools with another hat on, you know, you have a sustainability, a green panel. I think your students and in Ballyshannon as well are representing it, to tell more people about it, you know, and to keep the conversation going. We have a St. Patrick's Day parade in Bundoran and Ballyshannon the 17th of May. You could build a float for it or something and go out and enter and say, look, this is what's happening in the school, and take that theme on. Where will we send the suggestions, you know, if people have places that they would like to think of, you know, to send them in, what email is the best?
There's a contact form, there's a form on the, the
Green Education.
sign up, and if you just, in there, there's some information, you can send it in through there. Or just contact us through Bundoran Tidy Towns.
Okay.
On Facebook.
To let us know if you have. So it can be you can be part, if you have a really big garden, or if there's somewhere that you see that maybe the council owns, or that maybe is semi-derelict, or if it would benefit as a result of having tree planting. And it can be 1 tree or 100 trees. It doesn't matter. But we do hope to try and get a concentrated place as well. But nevertheless, that doesn't mean that every corner of the town can't be considered to do this. Anything else? Mr. McShay.
We have 106 acres up there. But if we try to grow trees on it now, it is a harsh environment. But we've been using organic fertilizer now since 1992. And the council actually tested the water going out of our course, and there was nothing in the water. Like, we don't gather any grass, we recycle all the grass. And this year now we're going to plant more areas of wildflowers all around the course, try and increase our bee population.
Great.
But it is a harsh environment now to try and grow trees on it. But the only chemical that we use is for to kill weeds and the berries, and if we could get a solution for that, I would kill daisy. Daisy is the only population, but we don't fertilise the berries. We just use organic fertilizer on the weeds. So that's our only downfall apart from that.
But you know what, that's fantastic, and the mad thing is, I never knew that. Do you know what I mean? And like, I think as businesses, you know, even from a marketing point of view, green is so on point for 22. And like, you know, we all need to be singing what we're doing from the rooftops. And like I live in the town, and I'm very much into this, but I never knew that. So imagine all those people that are, you know, it would be great to know that, you know. So yeah.
I drove by there yesterday, and I know that I was catching another bird on the roof, and I thought they wouldn't be there if there was bad fertilizer or not the correct word. I was surprised to see them there, because I tried to play golf and it didn't work. I was warned to always wash my hands when I go back indoors, because picking up the ball and all that is covered with God knows what fertilizer.
Well, I get chemicals myself, and that's why I started. Way back in 1992, we done the change.
That's fantastic.
And that's where we have a lot of birds come every year, and actually we had the corn crate last year, which was supposed to be extinct,
Yeah.
but we had it last year.
And you need to even hear it.
There's one, there's two.
Very well. I think that's an example of what I was saying about telling people about it. You know, that I don't know if it's on the golf club website. I suspect not, but there's a place to put it, and that we could add to the bank maybe of information that we could put together to say, look, these are all the initiatives that are happening within the community and within the society. So discoverbundoran.com, sign up. You can sign up for the tree planting workshop. There's also a contact us form on that particular page where you can tell us about places that you think might be suitable to green.
One more thing, could you send out those slides to us? Would that be possible?
Sure. Will you send us your email address on there, and we'll send them on to you? And we've already put you down for a lot of trees for the school at Ballyshannon, just courtesy of what you said earlier on. So you can break the news to them when you go back. Okay. On that note, sorry, Trina.
On the subject of like chemical-free products and stuff, I would be very keen on that type of thing. And we have down in BMG now a full new section of non-chemical fertilizers, slug deterrents, weed killers, sourced some from Leitrim, from a company in Leitrim, and you know, it is going to be a big push now this year on all that type of products down there. And apart from the fact that you know, the Roundup type products have all gone up by 120%, thankfully. So there is you know, there is the opportunity there. They're not vastly more expensive or anything like that. About the rewilding, I just think that it's very important for people to realise that for their pollinating seed and stuff, that you be very careful about what you buy, because if you buy something randomly, you know, in some shop without looking at the seed type, you can destroy the biodiversity of your area by introducing non-native flowering seed. So just, you know, be careful of the seeds you buy for the rewilding.
Great. Well, I think that's practical. You know, there's no point in us saying let's do this without having the resources and the things there to assist us in doing it, and the advice. You know, to us working together will help to avoid or certainly limit the opportunities of going wrong when you have sort of a collective input. So, anything else? Great. Yes, my dear.
I moved from London last summer, and I was always shocked when I came into school here, and there were no trees. In my old house on the street, there was a tree every 2 meters, and obviously the harsh conditions here, you can't really grow trees, especially on the main street. Obviously it's quite tight on the main street as well, so you wouldn't have the able to have trees because of the trucks. But on the west side, there were so many estates, and it's just plain tarmac. And you could grow like probably 200 trees of the whole west.
Well done, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Those type of the ideas of where we can do it, and we hope that the council, as Michael has said, will engage with us. You know, whether to be in housing estates or in other public places like that, because that's exactly the type of opportunity that we're looking for. So thank you for that. And if you could tell us where those places are, send us in and we'll talk to the people that are available to do it. All right. Thank you very much indeed. We hope we'll do this again soon. Yes, sorry. Oh, I beg your pardon, David.
Last year we got a water filler for the schools, so we're trying to save as much plastic bottles as possible. But now since the canteen, once again need a free bottle of water, so we're trying to ban plastic bottles in the schools. So hopefully at the end of this year, start of September next year, everyone has to bring in a freezable flask for your water. So there are no excuses, and they can use the water filler.
But was that a COVID thing, David, that they stopped with the water filler? No?
No, we can see like
All right. Very good, Bob. Fantastic. Good.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much indeed. DiscoverBundoran.com, sign up, and look forward to hopefully hearing more from you all.